As we head into Indianapolis for the Combine, we get ready to find and meet the next generation of great NFL players. I'm going to kick it off to Jay. Give me some guys that are on your radar.
The guy that I think is a can't-miss player is 6'6", 260-pound Tyler Warren from Penn State, from AQ school. Down the field, out in space, he's unbelievable. I think he's got great length as far as the running game is concerned. I don't really think he has a weakness other than maybe total inline blocking. He's more of a move tight end off the ball. Let's pound people. When you look at the impact that tight ends have on football teams, like you look what Travis Kelce's done over there, is George Kittle. You look at the impact. This guy will have that immediate impact on a football team because he can hurt you inside the numbers, outside the numbers, in the blocking game, in the core, moving them around. 6'6", a red zone target that makes it very easy for quarterbacks, especially if you have a young quarterback, to get the ball up and down to. Can't miss. This guy is going to get drafted higher than people think. If people say, oh, you can't believe you drafted a tight end at number 6 or 5 or 4. I can. This guy's going to be a major impactful type player on somebody's offense.
You think he goes top 10?
I do, yeah. I mean, if you look around the league and the teams that are playing well late in the year have good tight ends. Sam Laporta was playing obviously very good. Obviously, Kelce, we mentioned. Tight end is a very must position to have, not just one that can block, one that can do both. A lot of people want the glamorous 6'3", 230-pound guy that catches balls down the seam, but then he can't block a lick. You know what I mean? This guy can do both. That's why I think he's a major impactful type player.
Former quarterback.
Yeah, former quarterback. So, yeah, that just gives him even more stock.
No, I tweeted about Tyler Warren. He's a stud. AQ, I think when we were talking off air a little bit, you mentioned him being a guy to keep an eye on as well. Anything to add on Tyler Warren?
Yeah, I just think he's a freak athlete. I mean, there's clips of him, playing intramural basketball at Penn State and doing between his legs dunks. He was a high school quarterback, as we've mentioned. He's done everything. I think Jay kind of nailed exactly, the description and the kind of the scouting report. But again, like two guys that he reminds me of is Jay mentioned George Kittle. I think that's a great comparison. I also think Trey McBride from the Arizona Cardinals, both two
Stud.
very, very, very good tight ends. I think he can kind of do it all. But I mean, I think he would benefit from being, starting in the Y or the F in the wing and kind of doing a lot of stuff off the ball. He can block at the point of attack, but he can also go back, and now you get all the naked hides out of it. He can cut off the backside. Heck, you can run the shovels to him. There's so much you can do with him just because of how talented he is, but I think he's a can't-miss prospect as well.
Is there any team that you're like, oh, this would be a great, perfect fit for him, and if not, we don't have to go crazy on it?
For me, I think he would fit very much in that George Kittle role, so like a Miami Dolphins. But if you can fit him in a scheme like that where, he's getting the ball a lot over the middle and he's running a lot of these naked hides and, getting the ball out in space, and you're almost creating plays for him in that system. And I think same thing with Arizona, right? Obviously he's not going to go to Arizona because they got a Trey McBride, but similar style scheme, they're the focal point of the offense.
I'd love to see go to Denver with Sean Payton. And remember, he had Jimmy Graham, all the things they did. They have a really good similar run style that helps them, the outside zones and things of that nature. But then the seam balls, and then they move them around, get them out in space, get them out in the core, get the one-on-one matchups that you can really take advantage of. That'd be perfect for me.
Sean Payton will go nuts. They probably have to trade up because they're the 20th pick in the draft. But Tyler Warren, I think we all agree he is going to be a stud in the NFL. AQ, talking about trenches, I know you have a guy in the trenches. Do you want to start with him first, or you want to go with your high-end product?
For my high-end pick, I got Kelvin Banks out of Texas. Colt would love this pick, right? I think when I started hearing that Will Campbell and Kelvin Banks were these top O-line prospects, I think Kelvin Banks is head and shoulders above Will Campbell at this point in the process for me, because when I looked at Will Campbell, I think he's obviously got the size. He's talented, right? He's got all these things. But for me, when he took on a bull rush, he seemed a little soft in the bull rush. He didn't play with length and extension. And so I saw that and I was like, man, he struggled. I watched him against some good pass rushers in the SEC. And I was like, man, he's eating his bull rush, and it's like he's getting pushed back into the quarterback. And I didn't love Will Campbell. If you're looking at a surefire top 10 pick, if you're taking a tackle in a top 10 pick, he's got to be ready to roll right now and start. When I watch Kelvin Banks, he's physical. He's a prick at the point of attack. If his guy drops, he's coming in. He's getting ribs on the inside. He plays with crazy length. He gets out in space. He's decleating corners on the quick screens. He does all the things you are going to have to ask of a top 10 tackle coming in to have to start right away.
No, that's a great guy, and he's going to have to slow down my pick for this draft analysis. I'm going Abdul Carter, man. When you're watching the college football playoffs, you're watching Penn State throughout the year, you can't help but notice he makes plays all over the field. They had him at inside linebacker, moved him onto the edge, and he has flourished. He reminds me a little bit, and now this is the crazy story of going from inside linebacker to edge rusher and flourishing. Hassan Reddick, who we played with in Arizona, he was an edge rusher in college. They moved him to inside linebacker. He was out of position there, put him back on the ball and let him rush, and he just went to town, ended up getting double-digit sacks in 3 straight years. Abdul Carter is an even better athlete than Hassan Reddick was. He can chase down. He has the closing speed. He is a finisher. My biggest fear, and I've tweeted about this, and I'd love to get your take on it, and this is where the measurables come into play. This is a huge moment for him at the combine. When this guy weighs in, if he's 235, 240 pounds trying to play defensive end in the NFL, that's a major problem. So I think Abdul Carter, if his weight's where it needs to be, surefire top 3 pick, maybe top 5, depending on the quarterbacks. How would you guys view the weight from a defensive end, Jay, if you're looking at a guy to take that high?
I'd be worried about it personally. I know that, Micah Parsons probably a good comparison because he weighs, what's Micah weigh?
246 at the combine. I literally was just looking that up.
I mean, obviously it can't be done, but hell, I mean, is he going to be a third down pass rush specialist? What's he going to play on first, second down when the 2 tight ends move from one side to the other and they're right there on top of him? He's got to play 6 technique. What's he going to play? That's a major concern. Yeah, he's got to handle some meat, some beef. And yeah, I'd be concerned about that. At least you know a role. You have a third down pass rush role, and maybe you can put him in a bubble sometime from time to time as a linebacker. You stun him on a line of scrimmage. You play an under front where he's always going to be the outside man on the line of scrimmage. So there are ways to get around it. But his athleticism, his pass rush ability, you can't coach that. So I think you'll find a spot for him if you need to.
I think we're all going Penn State comparisons here because it's easy, right? It's the easy one that's right in front of you. But
well, he's the only one.
Exactly. But if he weighs in at that 230, a guy that came out my year was Aaron Maben. And Aaron Maben obviously did not translate well to the NFL because he was a 230-pound guy that just ran around guys in college. And then when it came time to go against Trent Williams and he has to actually have a move inside, outside, have a long arm, all these things, none of that works because he's not jumping the count and just running around guys like he did in college. And so, I'm not sitting here saying that that's who Abdul Carter is. He's obviously shown to be a damn good football player, and he's got all the moves. He's got all the intangibles. I was boots on the ground at the Fiesta Bowl walking by in pregame warmups, and I was like, God, this guy's a physical-looking freak. But if he goes in and measures in at 230, that is a concern because at the end of the day, the first 2 downs are usually run downs. You got to be able to play it in the NFL.
And I think, you look at, he's a big Eagles fan. He's posted about being an Eagles fan. That's something that it's interesting. I want to ask you a question. I have a personal experience with this. You grow up a diehard fan of a team, and someone asked me this question. They're like, if you're the New York Giants and you take Abdul Carter 3rd overall in the draft, you're going to draft the Eagles fan. What's it like growing up a fan of a team, AQ, and getting drafted by or playing for a rival? You've done it, but you also got drafted by the hometown Pittsburgh Steelers. So give me that rundown.
Yeah, so I got drafted by Pittsburgh, and elated as all get out when it happens. And then the longer you're there, the longer you realize you're getting pulled in a million different directions. Everybody knows who you are. Everybody in town knows who you are. All your friends are there. Can I get 20 tickets to this game? Can I get 15 tickets to this game? And it's like, it's so much of a distraction that as a 20-year-old, 21-year-old, for me, it was a terrible situation for me. Like I struggled at handling it. I was going out too much. I was, going to the bars where I knew all the bartenders. It was just a shitty situation for me. And, my rookie season ended. I got put on the practice squad the first year. So I had to renew my contract after the year. They offered me to come back to Pittsburgh, and then I had another offer to go to Philly. And just being 5 hours away from my hometown was a huge savior to my NFL career because I got away from the distraction, got away all the things. Then I go to Baltimore a couple years later, and I'm playing against my hometown team. I loved every second of it. Absolutely loved every second of it because I actually enjoy the heel. Same thing when we play for the Cardinals and we go to Seattle. I love running out and getting booed and shit talked and the whole nine. And then you go out and you score on the first drive, and now it's as quiet as a mouse. I live for that moment. I think any pro athlete, I think any elite athlete lives for the moment to quiet the crowd, right? I think if you're a fan and you go to the team that's hated by where you grew up or where your fanhood was, and you go into that place and you get wins and you shut down the crowd, there's nothing like it, in my opinion.
Nothing like it. I was that Eagles fan. I grew up an Eagles fan, got drafted by the New York Giants. And I'll tell you, I have not 1 ounce of love for the Philadelphia Eagles. I respect them. They're a great team. They got great players. I have friends on that team. But there is no team I wanted to beat more than the Philadelphia Eagles throughout my playing career. So all our Giants fans out there, if they draft Abdul Carter, trust me, he will be a New York Giant through and through. And he's going to go out there and try to get after, that team. All right, AQ, what's a lesser name guy not many people are talking about that you've got your eye on that might rise up the draft boards?
Yeah, so for me, it's Willie Lampkin out of the University of North Carolina. I got a call from Clyde Christensen, one of my favorite coaches in the NFL. He was coaching at North Carolina. He said, you got to take a look at this kid. He reminds me so much of you. He's a little shorter than you. He's a little smaller than you, but he's quick. He's athletic. He's a pit bull. He's a prick. He finishes guys to the whistle. And then he goes out and he wins the Jacobs Trophy as the best blocker in the ACC. He's listed, I think, at 6 foot. Well, he goes to the Senior Bowl and he measures in at 5'10", 270. I'm like, holy shit, 5'10", 270. I got to take a look at this kid. And he goes against 6'6", 340 and 6'7", 350 in his first 2 one-on-one reps and puts them both on the ground. Georgia, Kentucky, SEC guys. So for me, I'm excited to see this kid. This is exactly what I'm talking about when measurements, intangibles, all these things do not matter. It's the heart and the soul and what goes into it and on what you put on tape.
This is not the guy you want to watch at the combine because he will look absolutely horrific at the combine.
Bingo.
Don't go to the combine.
Yeah. Don't go to the combine. That's the guy that should call in sick.
Just live by your tape.
Let the tape do the talking, buddy. I got Senior Bowl tape. Watch that. Don't look at me in my underwear, damn it.
All right, so he might be snapping to your pick here, Jay. Who do you have as a riser in the draft?
Yeah, I got this Kurtis Rourke guy because I think this is what the combine's all about. He spent 4 or 5 years at Ohio U. He got Player of the Year in the MAC in 2022. Then he goes to Indiana. And I go, how the hell does Indiana make it to the playoff? I know they had good coach and they had some good players, but I always look at the quarterback, and this guy played pretty damn good. He's about a 6'5" kid. He can really let it rip. Yeah. He's got different arm angles. Not a great athlete, but he did play most of the year with a torn ACL, partially torn. And that's why the combine is going to be important for him to go get the medical rechecks and checks, see if that knee is stable. Because if it is and he's able to throw at the combine, I think he can throw it with anybody that will be there. It's just his movement, his athletic ability will be in question. That's what he's got to get answered there. But I like this kid, man. Anybody who can take Indiana to a college football championship playoff, I'll tell you what, man, he's got to have some skill. And he does have some skills as a pocket passer, just not a great athlete. More like a Jared Goff type quarterback.
All right. Well, he's making $40-50 million a year. So I think Rourke would take that all day. I'm going with LeQuint Allen from Syracuse, my alma mater. He was super impressive throughout this entire season. One of Syracuse's best seasons in the last decade. 6 foot, 200 pounds. I think he may be the best receiving running back in the draft this year. He caught 500 yards last year coming out of the backfield, 1,000-yard rusher, only had 4 drops throughout his career. Now, if you're going to be one of the best pass-catching backs, you want to be a third-down specialist in the NFL and carve out that role. The one area I need him to improve on is that pass protection, being able to step up there and take on a blitzing Roquan Smith or Abdul Carter floating around. You might have to stick your nose in there. But he's a guy that impressed at the Senior Bowl. CJ 2K, Chris Johnson was there coaching him, and he mentioned that he was one of the guys that wowed a lot of the coaches at the Senior Bowl. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see maybe a Denver Broncos and Sean Payton. We know he loves his third down running backs, maybe sniffing around. LeQuint Allen has all the measurables you want, can catch out of the backfield. Player to keep an eye on.
Spice up your sports viewing experience with the Underdog app. Underdog is the best place to play. Pick 'em on all of your favorite sports. Just choose higher or lower on your favorite players' stats, and you can join the millions of fans who have won billions of dollars on Underdog. What are you waiting for? Sign up now using promo code POCKET. That's POCKET, and you can get up to $1,000 in bonus credits. Download the Underdog app or visit UnderdogFantasy.com to get started today.